In last video, we did a problem statement and we did the human algorithm. So the next thing we're going to be doing is doing a flow chart and coding. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to do that specifically from the human algorithm. All right, so the first three here have equal signs, so they're assignments. Those are our constants. So I simply are going to copy reg rate and paste it into the variable and type the number 2 because I can do that without making an error. Okay, and then I'll right mouse, then I'll click on here, choose assignment again, and I will get large rate, copy it, paste it, 1. Okay, and then I'll get the next one. This one is going to be large cutoff. Copy that. Paste it in. Type in 10. All right, so that's done. And then my next is my input. That's going to be num pounds. So I'll copy that. Choose the input symbol. Okay, and on this one, I paste in the variable name, which is num pounds, and then I write a question for my user. How many pounds? Question mark, close quote. And I'll use this later in my code. All right, so now I have a decision. So that's this part right here. So I use the if condition. That's the decisions we're going to be using. When I configure it, it wants 2 values and how I want to compare them. So I go into my human algorithm and I only copy these 2 variables and how I'm going to compare them. I don't copy the if. The if is the diamond, so that's already present in the symbol. So I just use these 2, no if, no spaces, click OK, and that places that now in my decision. The next line is what goes on the right, and then after else goes on the left. All right. So if it's true, and that's what the true side is, then I'm going to do this assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and add an assignment symbol and configure that. So I have rate on the left, and I have large rate on the right. Copy and paste. Okay, on the other side, it's going to be very similar. So I'm just simply going to copy this and paste it on the other side. All right, that's also going to allow me to cut down on errors because these both I'm assigning the rate to. So now these are going to be identical. And the only thing I got to change is what I'm going to stick in it. On the left-hand side, we stick in regular rate. Because if it's false, it's over the 10 pounds. Then they get charged a $2 rate pound, $2 rate. All right, so now that we've done those 2 decisions, the next thing is this piece of math, and this piece of math is not in the decision. That's why we tab it over. So I'm going to add another assignment down here. And I'm going to say that in the place in memory called total amount, I'm going to assign to that place in memory what's returned from this math. And now I have my 2 outputs. So I'm going to need an output symbol. And the first one's going to be num pounds. Now before I paste it in, I need a label to describe what num pounds is. So in quotes, I'm going to put in the number of pounds, colon, space, space. And then I'm going to join that with num pounds. So it's going to say number of pounds, colon, space, base, say 20, if that's how many pounds there are. And then I'm going to have my final output, and that's going to be for total amount. Okay, that's going to be currency, so I'm still going to put a label in. And I'm going to say the amount owed, perhaps, colon, space, base, and then dollar symbol, just so that it looks nice. Now remember, our user's not going to see it, but it's nice to have that dollar sign so we know that when we do our output, we're going to do the same thing. Then I'll paste in total amount. So if the total amount is $10, it's going to say total amount dollar sign joined with 10. All right, so let's go ahead and test it. Now we have to test it twice because we have to test both sides of our decision. All right, so I'll go ahead and run it. How many pounds? We'll do over 10, so that's 11. And that should be $1 a pound. So the number of pounds is 11. So that works. And the amount owes $11. So that works. All right, then we'll run it again. Number of pounds is 10. That should be $2 a pound because not over 10. And the amount of pounds is 10, so that works. And the amount owed is 20. 2 times 10. So this works perfectly. Excellent. So let's go ahead and code it now. Open up HTML Kit. Get rid of the text that's there, Objects tab, and JavaScript. And then since I know this works, I'm going to grab this entire thing and copy it and paste it into between my script tags. So the first thing I need is my blank places in memory. So it's var. And those are always going to be input and the result of calculations. All right, so I'm going to have num pounds. I'm going to hold down the control key. Well, actually, let's do what I did before. Comma, space, comma, space, comma, space, semicolon. All right, so first I'm going to grab my num pounds and hold down the control key and drag that up. Then I'm going to get rate, and I'm going to select that. Hold down my control key and drag it up. And then I'm going to get total amount. Hold down the control key and drag that up. All right, so I miscounted here. Can't have a comma at the end. So it ends with a semicolon. That shows our line is done. So that's the only 3 we have. These 3 right here are assignments, so I'll go ahead and comment that. And I'm going to declare them and put a number in at the same time, so I'm going to need a var space. So I'm going to hold down my control key and drag this down 3 times. Put it in front of there, put it in front of there, and put it in front of there. All right, so now our assignment's done, except I need a semicolon at the end of each of these lines. And now I'm going to have my input. So I'm just going to go ahead and comment the word input. Then press enter to move this down. And remember that when we're doing input, we're going to have to say, I have a place in memory called number of pounds. Please assign to that place in memory what's returned from my prompt when I ask this question. So we do open and close parentheses and semicolon. So what goes in here? Well, I get that from my flowchart because I've already done it and tested it, so it works perfect. So I simply just copy this. Okay, that's our num pounds prompt. And then we go back to my code. Whoops. I'll put that into the parenthesis. Now the only thing I need is a default value. So that's comma and then something in quotes. I could leave it blank, or I could put like 10 in there if I wanted to. So let's just go put 10 in there just so we have something. Okay, next is our decision. Now the only thing we have to do to fix this is actually put this in parentheses. Okay, no semicolon goes at the end of this. If you put a semicolon at the end of this, you're going to get an error message on else, and I'll show you that in a second. All right, the assignment, all I have to do is put a semicolon here and a semicolon here. There's no semicolon at the end of else. Same with my math, my calculations. So I could have, if I wanted to, after this input, made this calculations, just so I know what happens in that area. Semicolon at the end of this calculation, and then I have my output. So I'm going to go ahead and // move this down. And remember, when doing output, it is document dot write, and then open and close parentheses around num_pounds. So the only thing, and a semicolon. And the only thing I have to do is add my label, and I get that from my flowchart because it's already been tested. I don't need num_pounds, it's already there. So I'm just going to copy everything to the left of num_pounds. And then go back into my code, and paste it in front of num_pounds, but inside the parenthesis. And that's done. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing with total amount. So I'm going to get rid of the output there. I'm going to select document write and parenthesis, hold down my control key and drag that in front so that it's the same. And then get close parenthesis, semicolon, and drag that down also. Oops, missed it. I'm going to drag it back up. Okay, by copying and pasting, less errors. I go back into my flowchart, get rid of this, get my label by selecting everything to the left of total amount. Go back to my code. And paste it in. Now the only other thing I have to add is that these are going to be on the same line unless I put a BR tag in. So I'm going to put a BR tag in right here. What's the chance of this code running perfectly? 100%. All right, so let's go ahead and run it and make sure. I'll preview it. How many pounds? Whoops. Hello. Okay, how many pounds? 10. And it's 20 pounds. And then I'll preview it again. Go back to the editor and hit preview. This time I'll put 11 pounds in to see if our decision works. $11. Absolutely perfect. All right, so that's it. Let's go ahead and break this so you can see how that works real quick. If I accidentally put a semicolon at the end of this if line, because it's fairly common for students do that, it's going to tell me that I have an error on line 14. And I always say no. Go back to the editor and you see line 14 is the else line, and there's nothing wrong with that. So anytime you see an else line with an error, it's always because you put a semicolon at the end of the if. All right, and I think the same, oh, we forgot our braces. Oh gosh. All right, so in the ifs, we always have to have a start brace. You can see that, and a stop brace. And then at the end of the else, a start brace and the stop brace. You can see that JavaScript allowed it to run even without the start and the stop braces. But that's wrong. And just because it works doesn't mean it's right. All right, so it's still working, but you always have to put a stop and start braces in, or unforeseen consequence. If we had two things we did inside that if, it would break. It would not work. So we always have to put a start brace and a stop brace in each one of our if and else's. All right, and that's it.